Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us for an episode of Page Turners Plus. The last time you saw us, we were reflecting on Astrid Roemer's Off White. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing Astrid. Welcome, Astrid.
Hi, happy to see you all.
Yes, we are also very happy to see you again, exactly a year after we last saw you. So, to begin, when you show your readers that no one takes Imker seriously when she complains that she has trouble learning, and that Bernadette doesn't want to acknowledge that Louise struggles to manage her life, what are you inviting us to think about?
Okay, um, thanks for having me with my my troubled English. Okay, well, you see, the novel. I will say something about the novel. The novel, and I will use a metaphor to answer the question. The novel is about let's say, the instability of life and living. And I use a metaphor like the ocean, like we're on an ocean in our own boat, and our boat, our ship, is a sort of format, is our surviving format. That is what we made to be to be. And when you talk about like Imker, the whole family is aware of the fact that Imker isn't learning that well, but it wasn't something they wanted to articulate. What they did is surrounded her with a sort of tenderness, so heavenly that at the end of the novel, grandma even gave her everything she owned. Okay, and it wasn't a thing to talk about it because maybe it would be hurtful to Imker and for Imker, and maybe also to the rest of the family. And when you say that, saying that Bernadette B, the mother, the grandmother, was aware of the fact that Louisa was struggling. Well, that's another thing. You know, it's about Suriname. And it's about Suriname in the years, let's say, 60s, in the 60s, the 70s. And it is a strange society. It is a society with more than 9 ethnicities, and with ethnicities with strong religious beliefs like Muslim, Hindus, Buddhists, the Jews, and then there were this population like African Surinamese people. They know where they came from. They had to fix their own formats to live. And the thing is that they were so aware of the fact that the colonial powers have formats to mistreat them. So they had to think very hard what kind of formats they need to stay healthy, to hold their dignity up, and to be human. So Louisa has her format, and her format was, I want to be a single mom, and I want children because children are very important. I want my children to be schooled well because that's very important even to Louisa herself because when she's old, maybe one of the daughters will take care of her. And the thing in the society was as well that there were no man to, you should say, you want to marry, because the best ones were in the Amazon wood looking for rubber and gold, etc. Because a man need money to have a woman. It's still that I'm telling my nephews all the time. If you have enough money, you're gonna get a nice woman. It's still that way, yeah. And Louise had her format, and her mother knew that that is her format of living. So she wasn't struggling. She had a stable format. Okay?
Thank you, Francine.
I think we can all agree that one of the main themes in the novel is parenthood, but also particularly fatherhood plays quite a role. Audie desperately wants to know who his father is, but Louise can't bring herself to tell him because she finds it too painful to say. So we're wondering if the novel is suggesting that there are some situations where the interest of the child conflicts with the interests of the parent, and therefore there's really no right answer.
You know, this question makes me smile, because fatherhood is not an issue in Suriname.
Hmm.
Motherhood is the whole thing in Suriname, especially the African Surinamese people, like me, the Creoles. Motherhood is the thing, because the fathers are somewhere. They aren't really rooted in the family structure like in Europe and in Muslims and other cultures, Hindus, etc. So the children weren't aware of there was something missing. The thing in Creole's families is that take good care of the children, and it doesn't matter who's taking good care of the children. Mostly it's a woman, but taking good care without thinking this is the part of the father or a man and this is the part of the woman. No, no way. So the children weren't unhappy in the situation, and they like to make jokes about it. Like, there was a quarrel in my friend's house between their mom and their dad. Well, we don't have things like that, you know. And of course, the thing about sex later on was also an issue because there was not a sexual thing in their house because there was not a father and a mother. And Louisa had her boyfriend on Saturday, and she went away with him. Okay, and the children know that's mama's lover. Okay, so okay, so there was not really an urge to know who his father was, but when this question came about, Louise, his mother, Audi's mother, wanted to use it the way she used it in her format. And that is another question, that she doesn't want his father to know that he was alive because he raped her in her own house when she was happy with her new boyfriend and her two girls, and he was her lover's best friend, and he raped it, and that was, to her, it was so bad that she didn't even want to talk about it. She and he used to tell his friends, in Suriname, a child is your child when the mother tell you that this is your child. And that's the same. She never told him, Audi is your son. Okay. And so it was something like maybe open a sort of scar when Audi wanted to talk about it still. And if you ask me, is it in the interest of the child to talk about it or not? You know, there is a Caribbean song by the Mighty Sparrow. Your daddy is your daddy, but your daddy don't know. I love it. You know why I love it? The whole world is like a patriarchy, but the real power of living isn't man-made. It's all within a woman, and it took it's in recent time that you can go to a clinic and want to know who your something about your bloodline. In former days, it wasn't that way. You could not. You had to listen to the wife and to to the woman. Yes, it's yours. Okay, and if if you don't believe it, she says it's yours. You had to take it. Okay, and it is my way in the novel. You know, I'm always working with structures. It's my way in the novel to say, well, there is this very old, very strong, very with strong forces structure of patriarchy, and it's mostly white, but it's also in not white countries like Arabia, etc., etc. But they all miss, they all are mistreating women, but the power of feeding the world and bringing it to the into the future is in the body of females, and that's why they always try to control women, but control their body, control their mind, but they can't get there. She is the one to say this is your father or this is not your father. And when it happened, he had to look for his daddy on his own, and he did. In the novel, he did, and she was okay. Go on.
The novel addresses sexual violence against women um, a lot. In a lot. There are you show children being violated. There was the pedophile who interfered with Imka. Louise suffers multiple um, instances of sexual violence. Kate is sexually violated by a medical professional. Um, why did you focus on sexual violence against women so much?
Okay, because I like this question about sexuality. Is important because I use three forces in all my novel, and I'm happy that you know the madness. Okay, about the woman's madness. It was a sexual conflict between the system, the patriarchy, like church and all the institutions, and the woman, and nunca. Okay, so I use three forces in my all my novels. One is sexuality, because sexuality is a strong force. Maybe it's the strongest force for us to us. Okay, I'll say something about it later. And there is this the force of food. That's why I like to use food in my novels, because eating, if you don't eat or drink, you can't live. So having food and having good food is very important. It's a very strong force too. And the other force is being part of the world, being related to other people and to other things in the world and your habitat. You know, I like to use the world the word habitat. Some people say environment, I say habitat. And talking about what happened in the novel is talking about the fact that sexuality is a very strange feeling, because when you take, like, let's say a metaphor, let's say take a sheet of paper and say that's the human body, and put some circles on the paper and say in these circles is where the sexual zones of the human body is. That's where it is. If you touch that place, there is something sexual coming up in your mind. You can't help it. It is because it is there. That's how we are made. And when children are very young, like 1 or 2 years, when they touching their body, they're feeling these places. And mom would say, "Don't put your hand in your pants all the time." I don't want it, but he wanted because it feels sweet. Okay, and that is the structure of our body. When it comes to um, confrontations between people sexually, um, there are there's not enough language to talk about it, especially when it happens in a family setting or in a setting with best friends or on the workplace, at the workplace, and the church, places where people feeling scared to talk about it. Okay, so it always takes years and years before you know that there was this like incest happening in that family, because they cannot find words to talk about it, and it's still that way. And that I want my readers to think about it. I want my readers to have a sense about, is it important for us to try to understand our body better in terms of sexuality. And because coming to us being female, from the beginning till the end, there is a there are possibilities that we are being raped everywhere, every time. You see, I'm telling my friends always, and they know I am like that. Don't give a man a chance to rape you, even though it might be your best friend. The sexuality is a strange thing. So they know me. I will never. My best friend may say, "Astrid, there is something. May I take you home by car?" I say, "No, I go with a taxi." "Thank you." I go by taxi. Okay. So I've been never raped in my life. And so this, because I respect um, the 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 flames and the things we don't really know about sexuality. And then there is a question, because we are here, there's a question about, but why did, when the doctor raped Nukas, Haley's friend, she said she liked it. No, she wasn't saying that she liked it. There was a checkup. There's the doctor. She's laying on the bed, and he should, because of her job, she had to do the checkup. And then he was touching her here and there to look if everything was working well. And then he entered one of the circles, one of the places where sexuality is active. And she thought, why is that? Is it by chance? Is it not intentional? And she's waiting. What's going to happen? Maybe say sorry or whatever. and she's frozen. And then he's a man. I want to look at the male, and he's, oh, you're not doing anything. Then maybe it's intentional, so I go further, and he did. And she was like, what should I do? Should I scream? What to do? But it took some minutes, and it happened, and he touched her, etc. And she went out, and she talked to her best friend Haley, and she told Haley the whole thing, and she was angry about it. But it happened. And the thing is, when somebody is putting chocolate in your mouth, if you don't like the chocolate, if you don't want the chocolate, you're going to feel the sweetness of it. It's in your mouth. Your mouth is acting like that. And that is a thing when women are raped. They're angry about what they felt. They hated the person, they hated the situation, they hated everything about it. But they also hated the fact that they felt the sweetness of it. And writing and thinking about sexuality and our nature, human nature, is evolution is so strong, man. And evolution just wants one thing, that we make babies. And sex is such a strong force in our body. So even if you mistreat a woman, you can get her pregnant because her body will act like being open to be pregnant. Okay? So I will say, and I like to say, because you mentioned it, they enjoyed sex. Sex is, in my from my point of view, my thinking, sex is something to enjoy because having sex, being this close to another person with your body and mostly with your mind is the sweetest thing in the world if you want it to be. And nature gave us that to put us in a position to make children, to make a future, to do it. And I like it. And the only thing I always say to young women and young boys is, think about it. Try to be respectful with it. Try to know your body. Try to know your boundaries. Try to check your situations every time when you're with others. Because where there are men and women, there's always a sense of sex. You don't see it, but it's there. Okay?
Thank you, Astrid. I wanted to sort of look on the other side of the coin in terms of Audie desperately wanted to know who his father was, but Haley was not particularly interested in forming a relationship with her father, and Imka doesn't seem to want to know who her father is. Are they motivated by indifference or fear?
No, it didn't. Oh, thank you for the question. No, it is because the situation in Suriname is like that. Fatherhood was not, it still is. The guys are still fighting for it here in Paramaribo, the Creole guys. Fatherhood is not a very stable thing. Okay? Motherhood is the thing. And of course, since Creole men, Surinamese men, have a lot of contact with people in Holland, where fatherhood in Holland is very, 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 very important. The first thing they ask you in Holland when they want to know something, who's your father? What is his work? What kind of work is he doing? It's a patriarch. it's a it's a man-made society. Okay, but Suriname is not a man-made society. There are different habitats of societies in Paramaribo, and one of this is the Creole society, where fatherhood is not that stable. it might be it's getting more important now because of the touch these people have with by living in the Netherlands, but still it's not that important. Okay, so the children are not the children are not suffering. The children, there's no problem. There is no problem. It's a problem when other children should talk a lot about their father, etc., etc. They might come home and ask their mom, "Oh, well, what about mine?" You see, and that happened in the novel too. The teacher was talking about, where is your father? Where is your father? You should never ask in a class of children with Surinamese Creole children, who's your father? Or father just telling a story in which a father is that important. It's not decent because it's another kind of society. You know what I mean?
Yes. Thanks, Francine.
So I'd like to move a bit on to discussing Winston, Winston
Yeah.
the son.
Hmm.
Um, After a certain incident, Anton, Grandma B's husband, wanted to banish Winston from the family home, but Bernadette objects to it.
Hmm.
And we're back to this question about, is there a right answer to what a parent should do? Is it wrong for Bernadette to have chosen Winston over Louise?
Okay, this thing again. Something happened between sister and brother, and let's say, thankfully, the father noticed it, and of course, he banished his son from home. Go away! I don't want to see you anymore. Okay, because of course there is taboo on this kind of sexuality. Okay, and then mom came home and mom noticed something happened. Winston couldn't come here anymore. And of course, maybe she was thinking like, what happened? But Anton could not articulate it. He wasn't telling it to his wife. He could not find words to say, to talk about it. And Louise was no couldn't talk about it either. So mom, she was in, what happened? What is this? Plus, it's the son she loves so very much, and a sister and brother in the years, in the time going by, were friends again. They were not enemies. They were talking and laughing together. That's how it goes in situations like this. The incident was buried away. Okay, and the brother was trying to fix it in his own way, to be nice to his sister, to do things for her, etc., etc. Okay, and there were no words about it's still the same thing. There are no words. I had When I was a teacher, I had children in my students in my room, in my classroom, who couldn't talk about how they have been raped by people. Years later, they came to me in Holland and said, Do you remember when I came once and I said I want to talk to you about something? And then I sensed something like that. And I remember that when they came, they were like 14 or 13 of 16 years old. And I do remember that I had the feeling that it was something sexual, and I did not want to know.
Mm, mm,
Sure, I didn't want to be involved. So it was a sort of, it was rude, and it wasn't good. uh, and because what 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 was there for me to do? Such a big school, and even in things happening nearby, maybe in family settings, I will not. Um, what I'm trying to say in the novel is try to um, try to take good care of children, especially girls, but also take good care of boys. And my mom did. She never wanted her children to go to sleepover. She never wanted her children to. She was a teacher and she wanted to be home and her children come home. She didn't want her children to be somewhere else. She never wanted. Okay, and we know that it is so unhealthy when children are being hurt by sexual rapes or things. It isn't healthy. It's horrible. Okay, and that's why we have to um, we have to act in ways that it hardly happened. And we have to teach our children and give them words to talk about it. Like when the Imker was, in the shop, and the man tried to give her sweets, etc. She ran to her mom and said, Mom was in the shop, and why was he wanted me to look at my pants? And mom ran to the shop and said, okay, never again, and my children will not come here again. Okay. So and that's one thing. The other thing is never punish the whole family because there is something like that. You have to think what to do and where and when and how. And maybe that is a very important thing to know. Prevent, don't let it happen. Teach children how to talk about it and be aware of it. We know as a woman when you go out, when you're alone with a man, it can happen. It's happening all the time. Okay? And sex is a strong force, a very strong force.
Astrid, you mentioned, you just said never punish the whole family. So I want to talk about Ethel and what Anton did with Ethel. I don't want to give it away because some people who are watching the show wouldn't have read the book yet. But we were, when we discussed the novel, we were all absolutely shocked and horrified at Anton's response, what Anton did. We understood that he could have had some motives that weren't bad. He could have been trying to protect Ethel. But we thought he was being spiteful. And now that you say don't punish the whole family, we think that's exactly what he did. He punished the whole family because Bernadette did something wrong. Um, could you tell us what you think about how Anton handled that situation?
Well, okay, I'm going to speak a little bit faster. Bernadette did nothing wrong. She just have this child being very brown skinned and but her husband being very brown skinned at too experienced all this horrible things with Ethel's family, like white family, okay? And They, I know, you know, maybe because you live in the Caribbean. I've been in Holland for a long time, and places where there are only white people. When they go and sit on your back because you're not milk white, it's terrible. It's horrible. It's painful. It's painful because you cannot change a thing. You are who you are, and you can change your skin color. So it's horrible. And Anton wanted his daughter to get away from it, get out. And my third novel is about her, and where is she, why, etc. So it was the best. It was so brave to take his child away and try to give her another sort of life away from the rest of their family. And I can tell you, I don't know how it is in the Caribbean, but in Suriname, skin color things, they are horrible. They are horrible.
It's the same way in the Caribbean because we have the same history. Um, but did you just suggest that the next novel is about Ethel?
Yeah, there's a lot of
Wow.
Ethel in the
Well,
novel.
I'm very excited about that.
I couldn't leave her away. She had to come back somewhere. But you say it's the same in the Caribbean, but we have like a Hindustani people from India, and some of these people are very brown skin, but they claim that their hair isn't curly. So they have another status, and they claim that status as well as being so-called white. You see, so the thing is, it's getting better, and it's getting so much better because we know so much more about so that's why sometimes I wear a wig like this to bring my afro time to life again. I mean, um it's getting so much better. Okay, people have notions about humanity, where we are from, and that your color and your kind of hair and your kind of eyes and your kind of nose and that your kind of whatever is because of the habitat where your faraway uh, ancestors were. You have this curly hair because it was important when it's very hot that your hair curl so that you can be in the sun. And it was very places where it's very wet that the hair isn't curled, that it is fatty, so that the coldness and nature is so smart. It's beautiful. So when you see the Chinese with their eyes, because there were sandstorms there, and their eyes should be like that. Nature is full of love. And now we know all these things. So it's getting so much better.
Yes. I wanted to continue on Anton because Anton condemns New Nikari as backward, describes Paramaribo as God-forsaken, and rejects the Winti ceremony. Isn't he rejecting his heritage?
I like the question because I hate Pinty. What is what is this heritage about? The people were there like 300 years. They don't know anything about where they from or whatever. All they know, all they had was pieces of culture, formats to use to keep up their dignity and everything. okay, to have their own identity, and they made it up. So I can't call it my heritage. It was like a survival code. It was like to make things which aren't made by the colonial powers, their own thing. But I cannot call it my heritage, man. My heritage, if you mean my African heritage, is far, 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 far away. Maybe it's all gone because it's all African countries are Islamist countries, and I don't have anything against that. But it's not my heritage. Okay, so it's blowing in the wind. It isn't there. So the pieces they put together cannot be my heritage. And I know why people use Winty, and I understand why. And maybe it has a sort of placebo effect, okay, that it because it is ours, it helps me to have a better day. And because my mom said when you go to the exam you put a piece of bread in your shoes, that's what my parents used to do, because you know that you will do better when you're there. I mean, I understand all these things, but it is not my heritage. And don't think, Roy, don't ever think that these people in Suriname, and some people are in the wind, they like to do like a sort of folklore, and some really believe in it. But don't ever think that these Creole people are thinking that the cultures of the colonial power, the Dutch people in Suriname, is better. No way. No way. They know it might be a highway to somewhere, but they know it isn't theirs. Okay? And they can use the highway, but they don't feel like yours is better. There is a strong sense of knowing in my country that we cannot find the sources of our heritage. It's gone, it's blowing in the wind, it's over. And we had to find another way to be good humans with dignity, and we do. So no, and I don't like. There was a windy party here close to my house, like 3 4 months ago, and I could hear in the middle of the night. I could hear for the first time in my life. I could hear a man crying. Oh my God! I could cry about it. There was so much pain in his voice. There was so much something. There was something so far away, so deeply, so painfully. So I can't find words for it. And you know, some people need that to cry out, and the Winty cultus is helpful with that. Okay, so it has its place in the society.
Since you were touching on the colonialism, maybe we can just talk a bit about Helly's experience when she visited the ski resort, and she thought that her experiences in Suriname were only dreams and she's finally seen reality. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is it because of the colonial education saying that, well, the mother country has better things than the home country?
Oh dear, I like this question. You know why? Because there is a little bit of my own life in it. the, the thing is that she it first of all, going to such a resort, so much snow, all white, the mountains, the everything. Oh my God, it's like being in a dream. It is such a strange thing, man. Seeing all these so-called white people with their ski things, and it's like, oh my God, what is this? Okay, and she was there with a female friend, because her lover, it was the place to be with her lover, to talk about the future, to make plans for the future. And then it was spoiled. And it was spoiled, and she was thinking all the time, how is this possible? It is because my mom is praying every day that our relationship must be broken. And God helped. Maybe it's true. Maybe God helped her. But in the other novel, you could read that it wasn't God helping her. It was a female friend who was chatting with the family all the time and telling them all the plans, etc. And that's why it was spoiled. But she didn't know. And so, no, it was a feeling of displacement. Didn't want to go back to Holland, being hurt by the fact that her lover, the man she loved so much, couldn't be with her there, where they had plans to be and to think about the future. And it wasn't a happy thing. That's why I've made when she left the resort, I wanted her to have her period, okay, to make this mood stronger, like feel the feeling of being a woman, of thinking about the real structures in life in and living. And but it was it was nothing. Has nothing to do with the colonial thing is better. None of my characters in my novels ever have notion of the colonial people, of the colonial thing is better. What they do have is the a way of fixing and making their own survival code. What's good for me to do? Just like Anton. Anton was a soldier, and he could see lots of Dutch people because it was a Dutch army, and he saw all these coats, these white, so-called white coats, and he could think about it and compare them to the so-called heritage. Okay, and he could think about what's better, what's a good way to do, because I'm a Darwinist. If I'm a thing, I'm a Darwinist. And Darwin, one special thing about Darwin is that he said we can be everybody can be anything you want, but you have to make the right choice. And you have to make such a choice that your offspring is going to be better than you. That's the force in life. Let them be better. And if they are better, then you're a happy person. Okay?
I think that's a really wonderful note to end on, Astrid. Thank you for joining us for another interview exactly a year after our first, and this was just as lovely as our first. I just want to say thank you very much for agreeing to this. To our viewers, the next book that we will reflect on is Andy Davis's Let Me Liberate You. You could pre-read that so that you could follow our discussion when it happens. Thank you for joining us and have a lovely day.